not winning 90% of your new business because you have some sort of incredible value.
I'm going to take a bit of a different angle.
We got a budget this big. I'm going to give it to you because you have a really killer plan.
You give a Red Bull to a turtle, what do you expect?
I think that's a dead turtle. So let's move on to...
E-Rig.
Cheers.
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 Does your current premium finance company lock you into long-term agreements? That's because they don't want you talking to us. At IFS, we win your business the good old-fashioned way, with customer service. I know you don't always have to use a premium finance company, but when you do, you should use IFS. Cheers.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Insurance Pint podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tom Reed, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Steve Earle, CEO of Cheap Insurance.
Hello.
And Jeff Roy, CEO of Excalibur Insurance.
Welcome all pinters across the land.
And unfortunately for this particular episode, Adam Mitchell is down with some sort of illness and is not able to join us. So we have the ghost of Adam looking over our shoulder here. And today we are super pleased to be joined by Tracy Riley. Tracy is Wawanesa's Chief Insurance and Technology Officer. Thanks for joining us today, Tracy.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So as usual, we're going to get Jeff to kick us off here with the rapid fire round. Over to you, Jeff.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Tracy, awesome to have you on the show. It was great seeing you last year. I think I saw you at Amplify in Calgary, IBO convention, and then we got a nice little presentation at CBN. So it was. I've had the honor to hear Tracy speak a few times. She's got some great content, and Tracy, we're excited to have you on the show. We'll start things off here with a couple questions so our listeners get to know the real Tracy. And we're going to start it off with our favorite question. Who is your favorite Canadian band or artist?
I like Big C. Is it Big C?
Great Big C.
Yeah, I really like them. And I really like Shania Twain.
Great choices. If you could see one live concert in 2024, who would you see and where would you see them?
I would say Adele. And would love to see her just about anywhere. But I know she's done some amazing concerts in London and LA. So yeah, anywhere would be great to see her.
Are you an iPhone or an Android user? Being a technology person, what's your tool of choice?
iPhone.
Oh, great. That seems to be almost 90% of our insurance people are using iPhones. What are the one or two apps that you can't live without, Tracy, on your phone? Or any new app that you've downloaded that you want to tell the listeners about?
I have a lot of shopping apps, sad to say. But yeah, I really like to see the weather. I'm looking at that all the time. And unfortunately, my email.
Now, share the listeners. What are your favorite podcasts you listen to, or are you reading any interesting books that you just say, hey, you got to read this. That really changed how I think about things?
You know, for me, I would say from a book perspective, Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, I thought was very impactful. And then during Christmas, I read Adam Grant's Think Again. And I found that one really good. He talked a lot about, having confidence in yourself, but also being humble and the humility to learn. So kind of not going into every conversation or every relationship with the attitude that I know it all, really keeping an open mind. And I think that's important, particularly right now.
And the last question we have is you can take one vacation in 2024 with your family, friends. Where would you go?
Well, I already did that. I went to the Dominican. January 4th, we went out there for a week and we had a fantastic time. Then I'm heading to Phoenix later in February. So looking forward to that.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thanks very much. And I'll pass it back to the team. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy. So tell us a bit about your path. How'd you get to where you are? How you fell into insurance like maybe everyone else did? What brought you to Wawanesa and what you're doing now as the Chief Insurance and Technology Officer?
So I had an interesting path. I appreciate the question. And I think it's important, and I do talk about it a fair amount at Wawanesa as we coach and mentor people as well, because I think my path was a little different than others. I did start at the very young, eager age of 20. Been here for 32 years, on and off. You can do the math. And the only time I left was to be a broker. And when I was a broker, Wawanesa was our main company. And I was, quite frankly, at Wawanesa's office so much, they were saying, you don't work here anymore. So it was hard for me to walk away from Wawanesa, I think. But my path was a little different in that I've kind of gone back and forth between what would have been considered business and technology. So I started in underwriting in our what we referred to as Winnipeg branch at the time. Wanted more and went to work for one of my brokers. And what was interesting about that is I went to work for Turnbull Whitaker, loved working there, loved the people there. But I was their underwriter. So I ended up, when I first started at Turnbull, responding to my own memos. So that was fun. It's funny how you flip to the other side, and why are you asking that? So when I came back to Wawanesa to work as a business analyst on a system change that we were making. And if I don't know if you know our history, but we did try, 3 times before we really got the system that we knew would work for us, which ended up being Guidewire. So I came back to be a business analyst on a system we called Wiz. And we did get that out to Quebec. At the time, we were direct writing in Quebec, and we had built a system that really only worked for direct channel. And the rest of Canada, we were a broker, a distribution model. And so we had to do a lot of changes to the system and decided not to move forward with it. I've been an operational auditor and developed our audit program. I've worked in what was called research and development when innovation was not necessarily a word, and led our products, and then got back into tech, if you will, through the transformation side of things, then the chief digital officer, and then the role that I'm in today. What's important to note is the role that I have today was very specific, and that was to integrate our technology and our analytics with our business. So we have teams that are side by side, and they're focused and aligned, and we're solving real business problems and jumping on real business opportunities.
That's great because I don't know, in my experience, I've found that the technology people and the business people, they're in separate areas of the building and don't talk enough or at all. I think that your organization needs to be commended on following CSIO standards, and I think that's part of that. Embedding that the technology piece with the business piece is important. So you've acknowledged that they dovetail into each other so much that they can't be separated like that.
Thank you.
So Tracy, real-time connectivity between brokers and carriers, the Holy Grail. Why is it important, and what are the benefits that when we eventually get there, and hopefully we get there, that it's going to bring to us?
Yeah. So real-time connectivity is something that I think and I know you'll all laugh at this, as we've been talking about for 20, 30 years. It is the Holy Grail. It's something that we all want because, quite frankly, in the end, it's our customers, the Canadians, that will benefit from it. Meaning that the more we can reduce the friction within the process, and the more we can improve the experience for our customers, we're all better off for it. And so that is really, really the main reason that we're so invested in that.
Yeah, and Wawanesa's invested a ton of money in broker connectivity, maybe led the way. We think the leader in APIs and what you've done. How important is broker connectivity to Wawanesa in general? Is it like the top of the hierarchy, or is it in the top 2 or 3, or? maybe just to share that with our listeners, where it stands or ranks.
Well, I would suggest it ranks pretty high. And, I was thinking about what our brokers have been asking of us, and maybe you can all tell me whether I'm right or not, whether you agree. But, we've had brokers say, make my life easy, be competitive. You're competing with direct writers, so you need a product that's available and priced appropriately. You need us to be a good partner, to understand your needs and really demonstrate our clear value proposition. That's what will help us, set us apart from other organizations. And so to make your life easy, we do need APIs. We absolutely have to remove that friction from everything that we do today. And so it is top of mind for us, and why we have someone on the CZO board, why we have a team dedicated to doing this.
Now, what maybe let's dovetail a bit. You're big on mutuality or mutality. I'm trying to say it mutuality. Mutuality. You're big on mutuality. I can't pronounce it, but you're big on that. That's a big value proposition from a company that's 128 years old now. I think it was 127 last year. Founded by a bunch of farmers protecting thrashing machines at Winnipeg. Explain how that mutual concept kind of dovetails into your technology, like how it just seems to work.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, and thank you for remembering the story. I really appreciate that, because I think it is a really interesting story for us, how we were formed, and then thinking about how we take the whole concept of mutuality, our purpose and our values, and how we apply that today. So a good example of that is when we're having a conversation as a department, talking about a member moment, and as a starting point, right? And this is what's happening with our members today. This is how we were able to service their needs. Catastrophes are a really good example, how often we're the first on site. What an organization like Insurance and Technology can do to enable that is actually very inspirational. So talking to my team about how we create the product and price the product that's sold through our broker partners, how we enable our broker partners to be able to provide their best experience to who end up being our members. And then even things like when it comes to a claim, our department would be enabling that adjuster to do the best that they can do for someone that's really not at the best time of their life. They're having clearly an issue. That's why they're having a claim. So it's a real inspirational story, and I think needs to really be shared with some of the back office departments that form insurance companies. So they understand how they're enabling, our front lines to really live our mutual values.
So can I just want to jump in here ahead of you, Tom, on one thing with a challenge for Tracy, given
I'm shocked. You want to challenge me?
Yeah. I mean, your organization has been the first at a lot of stuff and leading the way insofar as quote unquote connectivity for brokers. I'd like to see you guys be the very first ones that put out a high-level roadmap for sunsetting your portal. I mean, ultimately, portals should go away. Put that out there. Say, we have insurers right now who are going to Guidewire and they're getting portals. They're just introducing them. It'd be lovely to see some insurer that has put some thought into what things should look like a year or two or three or four. But what's the plan? Portals shouldn't exist. It's duplicate entry, quite simply. So I don't know. I think it'd be great. There's the challenge.
Yeah. I love how you threw down the gauntlet. So challenge accepted. And I would love to be able to come back to you with that roadmap. I agree with you. And to be quite frank, Steve, is when we were doing our strategic system renewal, which was the Guidewire core, and then thinking about what are those interconnection or integration pieces that we need to connect with our brokers, we had a very lengthy conversation about whether we would move forward with a portal, knowing that the duplicate entry was a challenge for brokers and you all deal with various different organizations. You're not going to remember how to use every portal. It's complicated. And so we did have a very lengthy conversation about that. We knew we didn't have the long-term solution at the time. So we always thought portal would be a near-term solution. So you're absolutely right. We need to come up with what that long-term solution looks like. In the meantime, some of the things we did do is provided an opportunity to go from a rating system and put a code into our Blue Pass portal so it would pull data so you wouldn't have to re-enter every. So we've tried to remove some of that duplicate entry, but I don't for a second think that that's the long-term answer. And so I love your challenge. Challenge accepted.
Okay, so Tracy, I'm going to bring us back to the connectivity conversation, right? So we've established that connectivity, which the ultimate goal, one of the ultimate goals of that is getting rid of portals. So Steve's challenge is very apropos, but we just established that there's a ton of benefits from a broker's perspective, from the customer's perspective. We've established that you guys, Wawanesa has invested a ton of money in this, and yet a little while ago, you, Wawanesa, agreed to share the fruits of your labor with your competitors. Right? So there's a thing going on in the industry called the Wawanesa API sharing initiative, obviously named after Wawanesa because they're the ones sharing. So you guys are way out there ahead. Other carriers who are now moving to Guidewire have recognized that brokers and vendors need not just APIs but consistent APIs, right? Standards that are actually standard, actually standard APIs, so the vendor can consume them. They don't have to worry about, Wawanesa's done it this way, and Aviva did it this way, and Echo did it this way, and so on. That it's actually standard. And because you guys are out there, because it is what you've done is CSIO standard, you've agreed to share. Other carriers have agreed to copy. So, in a sense, you've given up some competitive advantage. Why the heck did you agree to do this? Now, and by the way, I'm saying thank you very much. I just want to know, this is a good thing. I just want to know what was the thinking behind sharing the fruits of your labor with your competitors.
You have an interesting way of saying thank you, but so thanks for the question. So two things, I go back to, I think for us to support the broker distribution channel and, think about the disruptors entering the industry is we need to make the experience better, period. For our customers, for our brokers, for everybody. We have to simplify that business. And so for us, that really was a no-brainer, I'll be honest with you. And we don't feel like transferring the data itself is a differentiator or a competitive advantage. There's dozens of ways to do that. From our perspective, we're not actually giving anything up. We're actually gaining. Because the better you can be, the better the industry can be, the better we'll be. And we see our competitive advantage is really in how we use data to improve the products that we offer you, and through rate sophistication, underwriting effectiveness, and coming up with some opportunities to identify underserved market segments that you would also gain from, as well as new opportunities to tap into new markets. So yeah, we really don't feel, Tom, like this is giving up a competitive advantage. We feel like it's our role to make the industry better. And again, we're up to that challenge.
That's fantastic. And I completely agree with you that, I've said a number of times, moving data back and forth isn't a competitive advantage. It should be as seamless and frictionless and as cheap and cheerful as possible. What you do with it at the end of the day, that is, as an insurance company, absolutely your competitive, how you compete. So it's great. And I'm happy to say that, again, with Wawanesa support, CSIO, so this was project initially led from the broker perspective by IBAC. And with Wawanesa support, obviously IBAC is not the right place to actually do technology projects. CSIO is. So with the support of Wawanesa and people like Steve on the CSIO board, it was agreed the project would be housed under the CSIO Initech roof. So that's great.
So let's stay on this for a second, because it's way more important than a lot of people realize, at least in my opinion, that like we said, it's not, moving of information is not a competitive advantage, but the process by which we're doing it today is actually a competitive disadvantage, in my opinion. You're putting the brokers in a disadvantage compared to the directs. So what you've done here in sharing APIs, and for those that don't know or haven't comprehended yet, if you ever hear anybody talking about the amount of resources that it will take to really get to single entry, multi-company interface, all that kind of stuff, those really, a lot of those excuses have been taken away by Wawanesa, because yes, they've spent millions on making this better, and they're giving it to everybody. They're just saying, here it is. Let's make the channel better versus just us, and that deserves a hell of a lot of credit. And it takes away places for people to hide, other insurers, particularly, to hide behind resources and how much it's going to take, and you're giving them the opportunity to accelerate in this space for free. Here it is. We did it, and good on you.
They just need to make it a priority.
The other caveat, though, is you being so far ahead with all this stuff done. We need more people catching up so we can get some critical mass. So bringing the other people along, where they're, instead of one company that's so far ahead, everybody else looks like they're in first place. You have 4 or 5 people sharing with that, and those companies will get the business. They'll get the volume. The friction's gone. They're going to win the minds and hearts of brokers. There's a big payoff here. And as Steve said, there's no more excuses left. The security standards are there. All the data standards are there. The CSIO standards are there. It's a matter of having intentionality and doing the work. And, there's really no place to hide, because the governance council is going to put on display where people are at in doing this. So it's going to get very interesting in the next couple of years when everything's transparent in our business.
I'm going to add to Steve's throwing down the gauntlet here, because there are 7 or 8 other carriers, or 7 or 8 carriers that have agreed to take the Wawanesa APIs, and a few of them are actually working on that, as we speak, and a few of them are working on it soon. And in my opinion, once that actually gets integrated on the vendor perspective, and brokers see, with these, 8 plus Wawanesa carriers, I can actually do things way easier, way more effectively. I would imagine, and Jeff and Steve can tell me if I'm wrong here as actual brokers, but when you've got a critical mass of carriers who are doing things in a way that's easier, and then a few carriers that are not, I think a lot of new business is going to flow to that group that has real connectivity, and much less of it will flow to those who make it hard for brokers. I mean, is that a fair statement, guys?
Oh, 100%, 100%, Tom. Like when you get, when the companies that are most full of friction and take the longest to do a transaction are the outliers. And there's, if you've got a dozen in your stable and 6 or 8 of them are so much easier to deal with, that's when you're going to start to see business really, really start to move. Because quite frankly, we have, every broker is different, but when you're looking at, say, 10% of your personal lines HR costs are dedicated to keying stuff in to portals or doing things because the standards are being met with eDocs or whatever it is, and a few of them start to become, instead of 15-minute transactions, they become 15-second transactions. That's where the business is going to flow, right? And it's not just about, to me anyways, it's not just about the broker's margin. This is enabling us to provide a better value proposition for the customer. So it's in the customer's best interest as well. It's not just saving money for Steve on it and that sort of thing. It's about the customer experience too.
Brokers love the path of least resistance, and the business gets placed where it's easier to place it. Really simple.
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Yeah, I thought one of the things that got brought up that a lot of people don't talk about is the concern about the bias of AI in underwriting, about how it can create a bias. And that's something you don't hear a lot of in circles about, people are throwing the word AI out like they did blockchain. It's a cool world. 80, 90% of the people just know the word. They don't know what it means. A number of us are trying to figure it out ourselves. And I talked about in other podcasts, think big, start small, learn fast, kind of the mindset you need to have if you're doing AI. Maybe share with our listeners kind of what you're grappling with AI internally at Wawanesa.
That's a great question, Jeff. And the last time that you and I met, you had given me some advice on that too, because I think what you were hearing was a lot of companies saying, we're taking it slow, we're taking it slow. And I agree, like we need to have a vision of where AI can go, what it can do for us and our broker partners. And we have a working group assigned to it. It is led by Richard Jones, one of our technology leaders, but a very cross-functional group. And we wanted to start with really having a foundation and an agreement on how we use AI and that responsible use of AI. Jeff Goy has made it very clear that when it comes to pricing, when it comes to just sharing information, that we be transparent. And maybe that aligns to us as a mutual and to our values, but we want to head into that space, but do it in a way that we're responsible, that it aligns with us as a mutual, and that we can be as transparent as we possibly can. So we've pulled a group together. CIO Glenn Hemming did a great job in pulling a group together. And within 3 weeks, they had figured out a commercial submission process for us using the technology we have today, but just connecting it all internally to the point where we can have our submissions going straight through. Now, that's a game changer for commercial. And so we're just figuring out a few of those tweaks right now, and we're going to start rolling that out. But I say, rolling it out to a subset, because I'll give you a good example of where AI works within there. AI will generate a letter to the broker that, identifies whether we'll take the risk and at what terms. Now, AI is generating that letter and the description of, the thank you and what we're doing and why we're going to do it. What we want to make sure is that letter doesn't, a good example of oversight is making sure that letter, the verbiage in that letter is okay, that it doesn't say something that we wouldn't want it to. I heard about a delivery company that had AI, you guys might know this better than I do, had implemented AI as their customer service bot, and employees trained it to start saying really bad things to customers, and so things like that. Jeff Goy laughs because they talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of tech, and there's so much good that can come from AI, and we absolutely need to use it. But we want to make sure that we understand the bad and that we're prepared for the ugly. And so basically that's what we're doing today, but there's a lot more to come. It's an exciting space.
Aggregators. You guys said no more rates for you. Tell us a bit about why you made that decision, and then how you feel about aggregators generally, and again, why you did that, and to what purpose.
For us, we don't really want to be on a system or offering our product if our pricing isn't in line with where it needs to be. And we had some challenges with that. So we are really focused on our pricing sophistication. Growing where you're not sophisticated is not a good idea for anybody. Beyond that, my concern with aggregators is whether we are getting the broker an opportunity or giving the customer an opportunity to get that broker advice. And that's really key, because that is your value proposition, and we don't want you to lose that. when we met with a reinsurer, this was several years ago. He was from London. And in London, England, there isn't a lot of brokers selling personal lines. They're mostly focused on commercial. And when we talked to that reinsurer, Jeff said, what happened? And the reinsurer said, aggregators. Simply put, aggregators came in. The product was commoditized. It was about pricing, and wasn't that advice opportunity was taken away. So, in the end, I have no issue providing our pricing. We just really want to make sure that our brokers have the opportunity to give advice within that process.
And then we're talking about aggregators. There are those, and some of those have been on this show, who have said that their apprehension with respect to pricing APIs has to do with the proliferance of aggregators when APIs are around. But yet here you are spending tons of money building APIs for the world to use, but yet nothing to do with aggregators, right? Do you see that there's any connection between the two?
I don't think there is. Again, we talked about APIs and whether it's a competitive advantage or not. And the whole concept of APIs is really about the connectivity. It's about reducing the friction. It's about creating ecosystems that we need to be successful and to offer our members with the product and price that we have to sell that's best for them. I don't see that as being the same for aggregators. I think whatever we do, whatever process we offer, we need the opportunity for people to get advice on what they're purchasing. And without that, I think we're really losing something very important.
So getting an accurate, absolutely accurate price really, really quickly is not a threat, because essentially you still choose who can sell that product or who can actually present that price in a digital format online. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
Tracy, what do you see, or what have you got planned that's in store for Wawanesa's technology investments over the next 2 to 3 years?
Excellent question, Tom. There's a few things that we really want to focus on. I talked about making your lives easier, or brokers' lives easier, which is really important. So with some of the solutions we already have, we're streamlining those. A good example of that is with Blue Pass, we're going to do a review of rules and really try to remove some of the stops that are within the processes that we have today. And really enhancing our service levels. I talked about the contact center. We're going to start to implement AI and some other opportunities so we can get people on the phones, we can get brokers answers quickly. And for those times where we're working directly with claimants, that we can get those claims processed really quickly. So that brings me to digital claims. That is a focus for us. As a matter of fact, we have a group meeting this week to build out that roadmap over the next couple of years. And then, we've invested heavily in Guidewire. I don't think that's any surprise. Guidewire has a pretty significant marketplace. And so we're meeting with Guidewire and utilizing that marketplace to really offer, more products, more services that better suit for brokers to sell and better suit our members' needs as those are changing significantly. So you'll see more telematics from us, more innovation from us over time, and we're super excited about that. I hope you are too.
Speaking of exciting things, I do need to give a shout out to our sponsor, IFS Premium Finance. Thank you very much to the team there for all their support. And Tracy, I want to thank you as well for being on the show and sharing what goes on behind the scenes with your team and your blended team, which is quite interesting. And to take us to close here, I'm going to give you the opportunity to give us your final thoughts. No questions, no direction, just pure, unvarnished Tracy Riley.
So, my biggest point I want to hit home is our support of our broker channel, and you're obviously seeing that with our commitment to sharing our unique PIs and making this process better for everyone. Wawanesa is a leader. I don't know that we would have been able to say that in the past, and we're in a really exciting place, and we're really excited to have our brokers along on that journey with us. More to come, and I think we really feel like the sky's the limit for us right now, and watch us fly.
Is retention important to your brokerage? Of course it is. That's why at IFS, we have a cancellation prevention process. Want more details? Give us a call. I know you don't always use a premium finance company, but when you do, you should use IFS. Cheers.